assured that as we go into the more formal part of the election season, our systems at this point are secure.
Members of Congress tonight are reacting to today's classified briefings from high-level Trump administration officials regarding the security of our upcoming elections. The Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, the acting DHS Secretary Kevin McAleenan, and the FBI Director Chris Wray, among those who briefed members of the House and Senate. Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Dingell of Michigan told the AP that the officials, quote, made it clear there are active threats and they're doing everything they can to stop them. Politico reports that, quote, multiple House Democrats emerged from the briefing escalating their warnings about serious threats to the 2020 election, renewing their push to force Republicans to support new legislation to protect U.S. voting systems. Some Democrats say Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is blocking election security legislation. McConnell has said their bills would give too much power over local elections to the federal government. Ahead of today's briefings, the Majority Leader said protecting elections is a crucial task. But he then added this, which seems totally absent any concern for our country's next election.
It's interesting that some of our colleagues across the aisle seem to have already made up their minds before we hear from the experts later today that a brand new sweeping Washington intervention is just what the doctor ordered. I, for one, am looking forward to listening to the experts, to hearing more about why the Trump administration was more successful in 2018 than the Obama administration was in 2016.
In his book, The Apprentice, Greg Miller refers to a briefing then CIA Director John Brennan gave to McConnell about Russian interference. This is back before the 2016 election. He wrote, quote, as Brennan moved through his talking points, the Kentucky senator expressed no alarm about what Russia might be doing in the U.S. election and instead accused the CIA director of playing politics. You're trying to screw the Republican candidate, McConnell said. Here to talk about all of it with us, Clint Watts, former FBI special agent. He's also a distinguished research fellow at the Foreign Policy Research Institute and author of Messing with the Enemy, Surviving in a Social Media World of Hackers, Terrorists, Russians, and Fake News. Clint, what do we do if the Senate Majority Leader isn't worried about it?
I guess we wait and cross our fingers that we don't have the disaster we had in 2016, which we are still talking about now. This is 3 years later. We've talked about it continuously for 3 years. Doesn't happen again. And one of the weird things that's going on right now is because we have briefed this so many times, whether it's the Mueller report, the hearings that we watched there, if we don't do something about it, we're actually telling foreign adversaries or anybody even domestically where they should hack the election at. We're telling them these are the places that don't have audit trails, paper ballot backups. If you make foreign contact with a campaign, maybe you report it, maybe you don't. We heard the president himself say, the FBI director is wrong. This tells anyone, if they want to mess with our election, starting from right now forward, here is how you do it. We're laying out a blueprint. And I think the other point that's really important is we've seen those people that went and did that briefing today. NSA director, FBI director, DNI. We've seen them come up there repeatedly and give a briefing. We've seen no budge in terms of legislation. McConnell said there, he said, more new legislation. Some of these authorizations and acts have already been out there for 2 years. The Honest Ads Act, which essentially says the disclosures that you would make for ads for radio, television, print, like we would do here on this television show, should be held for social media as well. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't we want to do that? Why wouldn't we want to charge hacking as a federal crime or initiate sanctions against a foreign country for doing that? Who is against these things? I also think the characterization that Senator McConnell makes that this is some big government coming down over local systems. I bet in many cases, local and state electoral systems would love to have more support in terms of how they protect their systems, how they get information. We are not going and centralizing all of these apparatus, but we should have a minimum standard so that if this happens again, if there's just a pinprick hacking attack against a voter registration, we don't have doubt in this country about who actually won the election.
And that's where I want to drill down. Frequent viewers will know my distaste for national polls, especially this time of year. We don't have national elections. Ask President Hillary Clinton what the popular vote did for her. We have 50 state elections. So with that in mind, if Congress fails to act, if not another dollar is appropriated, do you have faith that 50 states on their own or with help can solidify their security?
I do have hope in a certain circumstance, meaning that if you look at what the agencies are doing independently, Director Wray, the Foreign Influence Task Force, General Nakasone, they took actions going into 2018. DHS, their CISA group under Krebs, they're doing a lot of outreach and working with state and locals, and they feel pretty good that they could get there. But what would help them? Well-defined laws, resources to back them up, and bipartisan support across the board at Congress. What they're being held to right now is you need to protect the election, but we don't want to give you the tools to do it. We don't want to give you the resources to do it. We just hope that it turns out right. And guess who they're going to point their fingers at if it doesn't go right? They're going to point at those same 5 officials that showed up there today. So I'm disappointed in the legislators because I don't see why anyone wouldn't want those basic protections going into 2020. I see no logic for it. And at the same point, we've discussed it to such length now. It's so documented in the Mueller report. We're actually telling everybody, if you want to break us down again in 2020, here is exactly the things that we're weak on, and here's what you could do.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.